Hey friends, Rick from BCW here with the FAB Breakdown. The new year is here and we're going to be breaking down the big announcement from Star City Games and what it means for Flesh and Blood. Also later in the video, we're going to do a deck tech on Hybrid Briar, which is the evolution of Briar from the Lightning Briar into a more hybrid deck to combat the ways other decks like Oldhim and Frost Lexi were attacking the Lightning Briar deck. We're doing this kind of just to have you prepared for this last month of play. I know the January Armory kits have some awesome new Everfest cards in it, and if you're trying to win, you will definitely need to know about this deck and what it's trying to do. So let's go ahead and get into the breakdown with the big news of the week. Star City put out an announcement at the end of 2021 regarding SCG CON. For those of you not familiar with Star City Games or their events, predominantly they have been a Magic-focused competitive event series. It was called the SCG Tour. You would have 2 to 3 of them a month. They would travel around predominantly the East Coast and Midwest, some out in Texas. I went to one out in Vegas. But for the most part, they were on the East Coast and Midwest area. They've always done a phenomenal job of promoting the competitive scene for Magic the Gathering. The SCG Tour had a wonderful commentary team. They were streaming on Twitch. They did a lot of videos in YouTube. They did a lot of series and articles on their website, all of this dedicated to Magic the Gathering. So what does that have to do with Flesh and Blood? I can hear you, and hear me out. At SCG CON in November, they ran 3 marquee Flesh and Blood events. They had a welcome event that was free, where you got the welcome intro Ira deck, and you played, and the winner ended up getting a Cold Foil Ira. Second, they had a sealed event that had a cash prize, and the sealed event was a sealed Blitz deck from Tales of Aria. And you played your rounds, the winner ended up getting cash prize. And then on Sunday of SCG CON in November, they had a Pro Quest, which was a sealed event. So amazing. They started doing some Flesh and Blood at one SCG CON. And I felt that it was a test. They wanted to see how the Flesh and Blood community would show up. And we had about 100 players there for some of the events. They also ran side events all weekend long. Well, with the announcement of SCG CON, they've also announced that not only are they going to be doing Magic, but they're also going to be doing Flesh and Blood. One marquee event listed. They have not listed what the format is yet, but the first one will be taking place in Philly at the Valley Forge Casino and Resort. I do plan on attending that event, as well as there's one in Indianapolis in March and then another one in Dallas in April. So we're going to get another competitive Flesh and Blood outlet. I am asking, or rather encouraging, anybody looking for a competitive outlet for Flesh and Blood, go to SCG CON. If you're a casual player and you just want to go play at a large event and do side events, go to SCG CON. They are absolutely amazing events put on by a phenomenal company, and the more support we as the Flesh and Blood community show Star City for doing this, the more incentivized they are to do more with Flesh and Blood. I saw what they did for the Magic the Gathering community. I saw how the SCG Tour took players that were very skilled and elevated them by putting them on stream, by making them something of a personality, if you will, on the SCG Tour. People ended up getting content creator positions, whether they were writing articles or doing videos. Some people have gone on to work for Wizards of the Coast in the research and development teams, or worked in the organized play department. We have seen people work for other companies that were affiliated with Star City and the SCG Tour. Some of them went to work for Riot Games. Some of them went to work for Direwolf. Some of them went to work at Blizzard Entertainment. They opened up a lot of doors and gave a lot of people a platform. that they could then launch YouTube careers. They could launch Twitch careers. This was all Magic related. But I've seen the power behind what they can do. And if we get behind them as a community, the sky is the limit for what they could do for Flesh and Blood. The sheer exposure that they can bring to the Flesh and Blood community is absolutely amazing. So thank you, Star City, for giving us a competitive outlet. I'm hopeful that a lot of us will be able to make it out. Don't feel like you have to travel to all of them. There's no cumulative prize points. There's no end of the year championship. These are all standalone events. They are Friday, Saturday, Sunday with side events scheduled for all 3 days and a marquee event that will be announced as these cons flush out. So super excited about all of that. I can't wait to see what Star City has in store for Flesh and Blood. And maybe someday we'll have a series through Star City where they're doing commentary, they're doing coverage, and they're giving the Flesh and Blood players an opportunity to shine, to become kind of household names amongst the Flesh and Blood community, and potentially open up some content creation positions for people that have a passion and success for the game. Now, let's go ahead and get into Briar Deck Tech. The reason why I'm doing the Deck Tech on Briar is simple. It's January. We have a new Armory kit out that has a cold foil, which is something that's probably going to be highly sought after as it's a new Everfest Young Hero. And if you're going to these Armory events at your local scene, you may need to know what you're in store for. And I think that the Briar hybrid deck is really the new evolution of Briar. It's designed to be able to go tall as well as wide. It's designed to be able to take on some of its worst matchups and have a better win rate. This is not my deck. I'm going to be honest, I did not craft this deck. I may have changed one card in this list, but this is a list that I found online. I'm really excited about it. I think that it does check all the boxes for what are the bad matchups for the zero cost Briar or Lightning Briar deck. By adding in the Earth, by adding in more blues, by adding in some different equipment, we have the option to take on some of those rougher matchups. Those Old Hems, those Frost Lexis, even Kano. There's a Kano plan with this build. So let's go ahead and get into this deck tech. All right, as we get into the Briar Deck Tech, this is a hybrid build. Obviously, Briar has essence of Earth and Lightning, meaning you can have Earth and Lightning cards from Tales of Aria. In the deck, you have Runeblade cards, Elemental Runeblade cards, and generic cards as well. We have two different abilities. The first ability is going to be the Embodiment of Earth token. Anytime your attack action cards deal damage to the opponent, you get to create an Embodiment of Earth. The Embodiment of Earth pretty much says your non-attack action card you control gain +1 defense while defending. So you're going to apply a bunch of pressure, you're going to stack up Embodiments of Earth, and now your non-attacks are blocking better than most defense reactions when needed. And the second one is the Embodiment of Lightning. Anytime you play two non-attack action cards, you get to create an Embodiment of Lightning once per turn, and that gives your next non-attack action card go again. So awesome ability. It's been out there for a minute. Most people have seen it. Most people know it. But that's what Briar's ability does. When it comes to the equipment in the hybrid list, we're still going to be running the Rosetta Thorn. It's still the absolute best Runeblade weapon out there. Once per turn, pay 1 attack. Whenever you attack with a Rosetta Thorn, if you've played an attack action card and a non-attack action card, deal 2 arcane damage to target hero. As far as the equipment is concerned, we're going to run a lot of the familiar ones that we've seen before. We have the Arcanite Skullcap that we're going to run. It's a block and an arcane barrier. When you have less life, it gets +1 on the block. It traditionally blocks for 1. When you have less life, it's going to block for 2 and then block for 1, and be able to have arcane barrier 3, which is seldom used but has been used to save lives. We have a Findel Spring Tunic. This is just the best generic chess piece out there. This deck relies on generating some resources because, as you'll see, we are actually spending resources to play some of our cards, unlike the zero build that is not. This build actually is. So that additional resource every 3 turns can come in handy. We have the Grasp of the Arknight. This is absolutely phenomenal and crucial to Briar, in my opinion, actually to any Runeblade, really. It's a block 2, block 1 with Battle Worn. Once per turn effect, you may spend 2 resources to create a rune chant, and then you have to pay an additional resource for each rune chant you control. Typically in this deck, we're just using it to create a rune chant. It's great for a turn 1 play where you're not really trying to go aggressive, you're just trying to set up and get a card in arsenal, filter some cards from your hand to your bottom, pitch 2, and create a rune chant, pass the turn. Your opponent's stuck with their opening hand if they're going second. Otherwise, they're able to filter and block out a lot. It really depends on what's in your hand, but this is a perfectly fine play to make with this deck. Finally, we have the Snapdragon Scalers, just the best all around. Give target attack action card with a cost of 1 or less. Go again. You're not going to be shocked to find out most of the cards in this deck cost 1 or less when it comes to the attack action cards. So this is just a great threat to leave on the board for as long as possible. It helps us push additional damage. Again, we're going to be running the Crown of Dichotomy. This is an Arcane Barrier 1 with some relevant text for some matchups as far as being able to destroy it, being able to put a non-attack and an attack action card from your graveyard on top of your deck. But again, it's Arcane Barrier 1. A lot of times this will be brought in a Runeblade matchup over the Skullcap, where you can mitigate some of the rune chant damage from Viserai. Maybe even in the mirror, you choose to keep this core set here and you're willing to try to mitigate there. And then we have 2 pieces of null rune in this build. We have the boots and the gloves, bringing us up to a maximum of a Arcane Barrier 3. The reason why these are in here, 1, the mirror match, or any of the rune blades running the Rosetta Thorn. You can try it. I typically don't. Typically, I want to go as aggressive into those decks as possible. But because Kano has shown up, and Kano is a really rough matchup for Briar, this is just a way for us to try and mitigate some of that arcane damage and still apply pressure to him. This is kind of just, you see it a lot in Blitz, but here in Classic Constructed, especially if you're playing Briar and you're really weak and really susceptible to the arcane damage, this build is going to have ways of taking advantage of that null rune, and you'll see what we're talking about as we go through the deck. So this is the equipment that I'm running. We have our main equipment here with the Skullcap, Spring Tunic, Grasp, and Snapdragons with the Rosetta, and then we have these utility pieces with Arcane Barrier that we can bring in. All right, so let's go ahead and get into some of the attack actions in the deck. First up, we are only running 2 Arcanite Shockwaves. This is a 0 for 4 elemental Runeblade card. It has Lightning Fusion. If you fuse it with the Lightning card, it deals an arcane damage when it attacks. It does not have a go again. It does block for 3. We have the always impressive, always great card in the 3 Enlightened Strikes. This is just a phenomenal attack action card with so much versatility. Being able to give it go again, draw a card, give it +2. A lot of times what I like to do with this is come in with 2 non-attack action cards. So this could have go again, draw a card off of it, and hopefully one of those non-attack actions is pumping the damage. So you get like the best of all the modes in this deck. It's an absolute all-star. I love it. Speaking of lightning cards or all-stars, we have the Entwined Lightnings. These are 0 for 4s. Lightning Fusion, if it's fused, it gains go again. We have Lightning Surge, which is a lightning card, a 0 for 4. If it's played from Arsenal, it has go again. We're running the Ball Lightnings. We're running 3 red, 3 yellow, and 2 blue. And the blues may seem a little out of place. The yellows may be new to you, but we are really trying to go wide and stack some synergies with this deck. And again, these lightning cards all can be used to fuse some of the lightning requirements. We are running 3 Ravenous Rabble Red, 3 Scar for a Scar. The Scar for a Scar is a 0 for 4 with Go Again if you have less life. Since we're not really blocking aggressively like a control deck or against some other aggro decks, we can kind of control when our life goes a little bit lower, so this can have Go Again. Ravenous Rabble is a 0 for 5. You reveal the top card of your deck. If you have this gets minus based on its pitch count. So if it's a red pitch, it gets -1, a yellow pitch -2, blue pitch -3. And it has Go Again naturally, cost 0. We're running we're running 3 red Snatch. It's a 0 for 4. If Snatch hits, draw a card. Again, another one great to pair with non-attack actions and a Lightning Surge token, especially if you've got like a Plunder Run from Arsenal, which we'll get into. Pumping the damage on this, making it harder to hit. It can draw 2 cards, one off the Plunder Run, one off that. It's a great card. Now, the little splash of some Earth attack actions, we're running 3 blue Autumn's Touches. It's a 3 for 5. Blocks for 3. This is in here really for pitch and for fusion with Earth, and you'll see the Earth cards coming up in our non-attack action section. So that's it for the attack action cards that I'm running in the deck. Now let's go ahead and get into the non-attack action cards. All right, let's go ahead and get into the non-attack action cards, starting off with everybody's favorite Plunder Run. In this list, we are only playing 4 of them, 3 red, 1 yellow. This is an extremely powerful non-attack action card. It costs 0, it has Go Again. And the first part of this is what is really backbreaking in most Briar lists. And it's the next time an attack action card you control hits this turn, you may draw a card. So it's not the next attack action card you play, but any of your attack action cards, the first one to hit, will trigger Plunder Run this turn. If it is played from Arsenal, it will increase the damage of your next attack action card played by +2 for yellow, +3 for red. Next up, we have the Sting of Sorcery, which is something you will see in the Lightning Briar list. This card is absolutely phenomenal with Ball Lightning. Basically, the stacking layer effect of being able to increase the arcane damage that Ball Lightning does is backbreaking in a lot of situations. In our list, we're running 8 Ball Lightnings. Most of the Lightning Briar lists that I've seen run 3, maybe 6 by running the red and the yellow. But we're also running some of the blue just because of Sting of Sorcery and some of the pitch cost of some of our cards as we go further into it. So this is where we're going to start deviating. We do also run the one of Golgarian Tome. I side this out sometimes in matchups when I know that they're also playing Tome, but really this is a very great card for being able to draw a card, play a non-attack action card that has Go Again at the cost of 0, really kind of helping with the embodiment of lightning. Also drawing a card when needed. There's so much that this card can do. It is a little bit of a liability if your opponents are running it, but I absolutely love the card. So these we typically see in some number in the Lightning Briar list. The other cards here we're about to get into is where the hybrid aspect of this deck really comes in. And so the first one is Bramble Spark. This is the Bramble Spark Red. We play 3 copies of it. It costs 0. It has Go Again. It's a non-attack action card. It has Earth Fusion. So if you fuse it with an Earth card, your next attack action card you play this turn gets +3 damage. However, if you don't fuse it, you still get the arcane damage from the next attack action card you play. So it's just another way to deal some arcane damage. It's a 0 cost non-attack action card with Go Again, trying to fuel the embodiments of lightning. Now we get into some of the fun cards that the deck is really trying to abuse, and that is going to be Channel Mount Heroic. Channel Mount Heroic costs 3. It has Go Again. It's a non-attack action card, and it says your attack action cards gain +3 damage, which is absolutely backbreaking. If you can keep this around for a turn or two, all of your 0 attack action cards that are a 0 for 4 are now a 0 for 7. And it was hard to block it a 0 for 4, a 0 for 7 is even harder to block. Super powerful card. We're trying to combo that with Force of Nature. Force of Nature is a Briar Specialization non-attack action card. It costs 0. It's a blue pitch. It blocks for 3. So far, checking a lot of the boxes. We've seen some Lightning Briar lists run this just as a great card to pitch when they needed to pitch, and a great card to block with because it's going to get the bonuses from the embodiments of Earth. But in our deck, we want to pair this with some of our plus effects, which is going to be Bramble Sparks, Plunder Run, Channel Mount Heroic, where we're increasing the damage of our next attack action card, because with this card, it has Earth Fusion, which the Earth Fusion is just going to give +1 to your next attack action card. But any card that has a greater attack profile than its printed base attack damage is going to gain the ability to draw a card if it hits. And it's not Plunder Run where it's once per turn, it's every single one of them can draw you a card. So this combo right here is giving us a Plunder Run from Arsenal on all of our attack action cards, which is absolutely amazing. Now, in order to fuel the Channel Mount Heroic, we need Earth cards, because every turn you've got to put a counter on Channel Mount Heroic, and then from your pitch zone, you have to put an Earth card on the bottom of your deck for each counter that's on Channel Mount Heroic. So for that, we are using 3 blue Earthlore Surge, 3 blue Weave Earth, and 3 blue Tome of Harvest. These are blue Earth cards. They pitch for 3, so they can pay for Channel Mount Heroic. They all have some synergy with the deck if you need to use them without having Channel Mount Heroic. The Tome is a great way to draw cards. It costs 3. You have to have a card in your arsenal. You put it on the bottom of your deck, you get to draw 3 cards. You can keep a blue, this in your hand if you have a card in arsenal, block with the other 2 cards, and still play this, draw 3 cards, and hopefully have a productive turn. It also counts as a non-attack action card with Go Again, so it can help fuel embodiments of lightning. Earthlore Surge costs 2. It gives your next attack action card, played this turn, +3 damage, and Go Again. This is another +3 damage to one of our 0 for 4s. It has Go Again. It does cost 2, but importantly, these are Earth cards, so we can hopefully pitch one with Channel Mount Heroic when we play it in order to keep it around an additional turn, which is really backbreaking to your opponent. The last one we have here is 3 blue Weave Earth. It's a 0 cost non-attack action card. It has Go Again. The next Earth or elemental attack action card you play this turn gains +1. If it was fused, instead it gains +2. There's not very many cards that are going to take advantage of the fuse part. We have some Earth attack action cards. We have a few elemental attack action cards, but really this is in here for pitch. This is in here because it's an Earth card, and it's a non-attack action card with Go Again if we're in a position where we have to create an embodiment of lightning. And it also blocks for 2 with embodiments of Earth that can easily climb up to blocking for 3, 4, 5, depending on how many embodiments we were able to create the turn before. And our last card in the main part of our non-attack actions is going to be the Pulse of Candlehold. This is an Earth Lightning non-attack action card. It costs 0. It has Go Again. So this can be used to fuse all of our cards that require fusing. This is a non-attack action card that we can play to help trigger the embodiment of lightning. It blocks for 3 as a non-attack action. It means it'll benefit from the embodiments of Earth. There's a lot of positive things out of the Pulse of Candlehold. It's legendary. The only reason why we're only playing 1, it's a yellow pitch. It's great late game because of its actual ability of being able to put 2 cards from your discard pile back into your deck. It serves a lot of practical purposes that are absolutely crucial for this deck success. So All of this here is where our earth cards and our hybrids coming in, and it's really in our non-attack actions. We have the one attack action earth card in here, and you're probably saying, well, this isn't the full deck. This is most of it. You're correct. I'm going to cover the instant that we play, which is 3 red Lightning Press. Lightning Press is an absolute blowout, especially if it's on a card under a Plunder Run effect or something under the Force of Nature. Being able to give an attack action card with a cost of 1 or less, plus 3 damage at instant speed for the cost of 0 is absolutely amazing. It's a lightning card, so it can be used with our cards that have a lightning fuse if needed, letting our opponent know that we have it, which puts them in a hard spot of being able to block. If they're trying to block something out, they're either going to have to overblock or they're just going to have to let us hit them with it. And we can always just hold on to the card. We don't have to use it when we fuse with it. We can leave it for another threat if needed, which makes blocking very hard for them. So a great versatile card. If anything, I might want a couple more of these cards in the deck. The yellows are nice. They give +2, again, at a 0 cost. But right now, we're on a fine balance of balancing the amount of earth and blue pitch that we have in the deck, as well as the non-attack actions to the attack action ratio, so we can get embodiments of lightning. There's a lot of things that we have going on in this deck that we need to be able to account for numbers-wise. So that's why there's only 3 of these in here. But this is what I would consider the core of the main deck. Now, I've got a little bit of a sideboard package. Some of these cards are going to be in every matchup. So let's go ahead and get into what I consider as the sideboard of this deck. First up, I'm running 2 Time Snap Potions. Time Snap Potion really is for Prism. I have tried it into some of the Frost heroes that run Blizzard. Being able to pop this to gain 2 action points gets around the not having go again. But really it's for Prism when they play Arclight Sentinel. Up next, I've got 3 red Sigil of Suffering. The red Sigil of Sufferings are in here for the Runeblade matchups, so Chain, Viscerai, and Briar. They're just great blocks. Defense reactions, they deal an arcane damage most of the time. They're not going to be running Arcane Barrier into you. Really hedge your bet on it one way or the other. It's nice to have. I'll also bring these in against Katsu when I run into Katsu, just because they don't typically run Arcane Barrier. And it's a nice 4 block in that point and still bleeds a little damage through. And lastly, I've got 3 Command and Conquer, 2 Exude Confidence, and 2 Coax of Commotion. These I'm typically bringing in the Guardian matchup. I'm bringing them in order to deal some additional damage if needed. They're going to try and fatigue us, so having more well-costed attack actions like the Coax and the Exude 0 for 4s fits right along with the plan. The Coax is great because most of the time Guardians aren't going wide into the matchup. They're trying to fatigue us. So making the Quicken token is something they're not really going to be able to take advantage of. Exude Confidence is phenomenal because, again, if it's not defended correctly, it can go ahead and shut off their ability to play defense reactions to the rest of the combat chain. And Command and Conquer cannot have defense reactions played against it. And if Command and Conquer hits, it removes cards in their arsenal. So I bring this in against Guardian. I'm going up on my deck count anyway. I don't really need to take anything out. And then against Ranger, I'll bring these 3 in. So Azalea and Lexi, I'll bring in the 3 Command and Conquers because attacking their arsenal really kind of sets them back or makes them block more from their hand. The Sigils, again, any aggressive deck that's not going to be playing any type of Arcane Barrier, or if they are, they're not going to want to pitch to the Arcane Barrier. It's great to bring these in because typically that's going to be a 4 block for you. The Time Snaps, play around with it in your own meta for against the Frost matchups. People that weigh heavily on the Blizzard to kind of combat what Briar is doing Time Snap Potion can get around, but really this is in here as a blue pitch, but mainly I only bring this in against Prism. And that's because of Arclight Sentinel really being hard for us to deal with. There are other auras as well. It allows us to attack an aura and still have an action point, and then we can start going off with our cards that have go again. You do have to land this beforehand though. You cannot play it and pop it. So at the end of a chain of attacks, go ahead and drop your Time Snap in those matchups. But typically this is for Prism. That's it, folks. That is my Briar hybrid list that I will be playing. Again, January is upon us, which means we should have the new Armory kits in your local area. You're going to want to know about this deck if you're not playing this deck. You're going to want to know what it's trying to do, because this is a very popular deck. This is a very strong deck, and it's trying to counter what the Frost decks are doing, what the Guardian decks are doing, the fatigue strategy, by being able to go tall, by being able to apply a lot of pressure, and by having a lot of blue pitch to pay for Frostbite tokens. That's how we're combating that. The other thing is, I did mention at the beginning that we are going into like the Kano counter, if you will. We have 3 cards that have Arcane Barrier, 1 on it. So we have the Crown of Dichotomy, the Null Rune Boots, and the Null Rune Gloves. This list is playing a lot of blue, so you can pitch 3 to prevent 3 arcane damage, which is really going to help you against that Kano matchup when they try to kill you. Just make sure that you're not dumping your hand in the Kano matchup. Make sure that everything you're doing is with purpose. I would play it a little bit slower, try to go tall. I would definitely want to hold back to try and prevent them from being able to set up the turn to kill you by being able to get a Blazing Aether off on you for a lot of damage, because they were able to just chain together a lot of unanswered arcane damage. A lot of times the Kano deck is going to really wait to go off until you're presenting lethal, but they are going to be trying to sculpt their deck as they go, whether it's through their pitch or through their ops. So you do want to apply a lot of pressure so they don't get the perfect sculpt in, but you do want to make sure that you're holding something back to be able to at least answer a little bit of the arcane damage with this deck. So I hope that helps, my friends. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you'd like to see different heroes, leave a comment below. I'll be more than happy to do a deck tech on any of the heroes out there. Also, thank you guys for supporting this content. Give it a thumbs up, give it a like, share it with a friend. It really does help the YouTube algorithms for people to find my videos, as well as the support for me continuing to create videos. Until next time, remember, when it comes to collecting, storing, or displaying your hobbies or collectibles, BCW has you covered.